This is an A-level and IB psychology video outlining Wilcoxon's signed rank test. So Wilcoxon is an inferential statistic which we use when we're looking for differences between groups or data. It uses ordinal data as a minimum, but can also use interval or ratio data, and it uses a repeated measures design. The way in which we remember that Wilcoxon uses repeated measures design is it has an X in it, so the participants are getting an extra go because they're repeating the study. Our hypothesis that we're going to try and test is whether or not there will be a difference in the aggression scores of a group of male inmates at a high security unit following an anger management programme. And it's repeated measures, as you can see from the table, because we take a baseline aggression score of our inmates and then we look at their aggression scores after an intervention. So Wilcoxon doesn't necessarily have a formula, but it has these steps that we follow. So the first thing that we do is calculate the difference between the two scores by simply taking one from the other. We then rank the differences, add up the ranks of the positive differences and add up the ranks of the negative differences. We find the smallest total rank, which gives us our value of t, and then we look at the number of scores to help us use the critical values table. So breaking this down step by step, we need to first of all calculate the difference between the two scores. So 5 minus 2 is 3, 1 minus 3 minus 2, 4 minus 3 is 1, and so on and so forth. It's really important that you are consistent in the way in which you are taking one score from the other, because otherwise it's going to lead to a lot of confusion later on. So these minus numbers are important. The next step is to rank the differences. As with all inferential statistics, this is quite an important step. So the first thing we look at is for the smallest number, and that is 1. So that obviously gets the rank of 1. Then we have a 2. It doesn't matter that it's a minus number for now, but it gets a rank of 2. We then have 2 3s, so they would get a rank of 3 and 4. Obviously we can't do that, so we have to give them an equal ranking, which is 3.5, and then we have 5 and 6. The next thing that we do is add up the ranks of the positive difference, which I've circled in blue. So we have 3.5, 1, 3.5 and 5, which adds up to 13. And then we add up the ranks of the negative differences, which is 2 and 6, which is 8. The information that we use to use the critical values table is t, which is the smallest of the total ranks. So it doesn't matter which one we're using as long as it's the smallest one. And our smallest rank was t equals 8. We then use the number of scores, excluding any that had no difference. In this example, we didn't have any scores of no difference, so that's fine. So these are the two pieces of information we need to use to look up in the statistical tables to see if our result is significant. So we're going to be looking at a two-tailed test, and to be significant, our observed value must be equal or less than the critical value. And so we had 6 participants, so our score needs to be less than 0. Unfortunately, 8 is not. So in conclusion, to be significant, the observed value must be equal or less than the critical value, which it was not, clearly. So we accept our null because we found no effect, and therefore we conclude that there's more than 5% probability that our results are due to chance. As we've accepted our null hypothesis, we must reject our alternative because no effect was found, and an alternative hypothesis states that there would be an effect. So to conclude in relation to the study, there was no difference between the aggression scores of a group of male inmates at a high security unit following an anger management programme. So that was a brief outline of Wilcoxon's signed rank test for A-level and IB psychology.